Hello everybody, this is Fernando for Godzilla Movie News. I wanted to do another entry with regards to my urban legends videos, this time focusing on an urban legend surrounding a Toys R Us store in Sunnyvale, California. Now, I mentioned before that I don't really talk about like ghosts and stuff like that, but if they do really involve an urban legend type status, i.e., like the last video I did involving the San Antonio Railroad location with the children pushing cars forward and so forth. If there's something involving that, something involving a haunting of a location, then yeah, sure. If it's an urban legend type status, then by all means, I'll talk about it here. In any case, this is an urban legend again involving a haunting of a Toys R Us store in Sunnyvale, California. Legend goes that there was at that time period, of course the Toys R Us is still there right now, but if we go back into the 1800s, there was just a plantation on that land. And on that land, there used to be a gentleman by the last name of Murphy who owned the plantation, who would hire workers to work on there. And he hired a person a young kid apparently by the name of Johnny Johnson. Apparently you'll see a picture of him here. Interesting stuff. I mean, one finds when one is doing research on this, there's apparently pictures of this stuff everywhere. And he was a young immigrant who had come on board to not only become to work on the plantation, but to also eventually become a minister. But it turns out that while he was doing this, he fell in love with the owner Murphy's oldest daughter. Her name was Elizabeth. Apparently he tried to woo her. She wasn't necessarily attracted to him because her heart was already won by some lawyer back in New York or somewhere east. So because of this, Johnny was heartbroken. He also apparently suffered from a disease that involved inflammation of the brain. He would see hallucinations, have memory problems, and this labeled him to be a little crazy, and this could have detracted, of course, Elizabeth from going out with him. So, the legend further goes that he was one day picking his orchids. Maybe he was distracted, maybe he was still kind of heartbroken, but he was picking orchids on the plantation with his axe, and then all of a sudden the axe fell, and it hit him on the leg, and apparently it hit him right in the the arterial vein that allowed a lot of blood to come out, and he bled to death essentially on the spot. So, fast forward into the 1900s, we're talking into 1950s, 60s. The plantation is still kind of there, but they're ready to sell. Whoever the family that's there now is ready to sell, and guess what they sold to? They sold to a Toys R Us franchisee. So Toys R Us purchased the land there, and they built a location, and everything was good. But what happened apparently was shortly after, and you'll see a picture of the Toys R Us store here, shortly after opening, employees that were there were starting to experiencing a couple of things. They started to experience strange odors. They would experience temperature drops. They would experience, especially the female employees, hair being moved, like somebody was running their finger through their hair, voices calling out employee names, and they would also hear sounds all the time. And these were sounds that people were not able to attribute to anything, especially if they were by themselves. Yet they would hear sounds, footsteps, voices, things moving, knocking down, and so forth. And one of the best locations apparently for this was the women's bathroom. Many employees that were there, and even customers, would state that they would always feel like somebody was watching them, and that even if they were alone, they would get that uneasy feeling that somebody was there with them. There was apparently an employee named Cheryl Royce who stated that she was in the restroom, and she heard the door open, and it sounded like the water, I guess, in one of the faucets was being turned on, but she didn't see anybody come in. And not only that, but she also heard the door open again to leave. Apparently, whoever was doing this, to leave. But again, they didn't hear any footsteps, didn't see anything, nothing involving a person that would actually be doing this. And that's what other employees state as well. You'll see a picture here of the location. Looks like this is one of the upstairs locations within the Toys R Us building. And this is apparently where this ghost slash entity tends to reside the most. Most employees that work there now swear that they don't go there by themselves, and if they do, they try to get out as much as quickly as they can. And you'll see another picture here, which includes aisle 10A. Apparently, the entity frequents this aisle and frequents aisle 15 as well, and again the aforementioned restrooms. So who is this entity? Well, apparently, once the seance was done there a little while back, like in the 1970s, it turns out that it's this Johnny Johnson, this guy that bled to death on the farm. Again, this was the guy that was in love with essentially the farmer's daughter, but had his heart broken, and then of course died by the axe. So while the seance was being held, a picture was taken, and it apparently captured this image, which you see somebody resting on the left hand side there, leaning against a wall, and that's apparently them, Johnny Johnson, on there. So is this an urban legend? Is it true? Is it false? The official statement from Toys R Us, and one of their, I guess, vice presidents or directors from the area, states that they don't believe that it's true, but it does provide great publicity. Still to this day, a lot of people near and around that area frequent it just to go by these particular aisles, and of course the restroom area. And there's still some people that even hang out outside to practice on the Ouija board, and there are others that beg as much as they can but don't get the permission to try to stay the night at the Toys R Us. Interesting side note, this drew so much attention that apparently a screenwriter of the movie Toys spent one of the 2 nights there, or was able to get 2 nights to spend there at the Toys R Us while he was doing research apparently on this topic. And again, the director of the Toys R Us, the vice president, they say that it's not really true, but the employees swear that it is, and to this day it's still a popular spot. So urban legend true, urban legend false? I would say probably it's on the true side, because so many people seem to be saying the same thing. But as always, the best experience is to have it yourself there. On another side note, I used to work when I was in college at a J.C. Penney's, and my area that I worked at, which was the home department, was right adjacent to the back area where all the inventory is that comes in from the trailers, and essentially they get put into stock. A big warehouse area in the back. And some of the employees that I worked with there swore that they would see and feel like something was there with them. I worked there for almost 3 years again while I was in college, and I never saw anything, I never felt anything. I even stayed back there one time categorizing inventory when no one else would, and I brought a little camera just in case. And as I was working in an area involving the pillows, and later on an area involving the luggage, I didn't see anything, didn't feel anything, not a single thing. But some of my employees swore that they would see something, and it would be like a brief, very, very brief silhouette or an image or a shadow of something, and they still believe that something was there. So I guess I just don't have the magic touch when it comes to that, but just wanted to put in my own experience on there, and I've included some pictures of what I took to try to see if I could capture something, but no. So anyways, that's the urban legend of the haunted Toys R Us in California. And as always, if anyone has any experience maybe involving this particular urban legend, feel free to comment and post on there in my video below. Thank you, everybody.